Brad not in here anymore? Is this it? Yeah? All right, so we're getting started. So we're down. Anybody want to start us off? Paul?
Well, Coach, with everything that's gone on since you guys last took the field, what's the most significant feeling you're experiencing about game week?
Just the energy and excitement. You know, not as much. I've had a lot of time here with the guys where they can just be focused on being college football players. Still, obviously, have some hiccups and some hurdles you got to clear with protocols and things like that. But it feels like a football season, and so I know the guys are having a lot of fun right now.
What's the most significant difference you see in the team today compared to where you left off last fall?
Execution. I mean, when we were coming into our first game last year, it was challenging, you know, and even with the experienced guys, it was just tough to get through all your base stuff and really feel good about where you were at as far as an execution standpoint. But right now, you got a spring ball behind you, you know, last fall, obviously, and a true fall camp this year, and so you feel really good about the level of operation the guys have.
How much do you really know about Connecticut's defense? I memean, they haven't played in 2 years. What are you guys going off of to try to come up with a scouting report and a game plan?
Yeah, we're basing it off of all of the 2019 film that we can gather, and watched all of that, and you know, tried to gain some information as far as some adjustments they might make or adjustments their D coordinators made in the past. And then, you know, from that standpoint, we got to make our game plan broad enough that it's got to be able to take on some things that we haven't seen on film yet, because I'm sure there'll be some of that as well that they're not going to play into every, you know,
Coach, you guys had the #1 offense in the Mountain West last year. How do you repeat that?
the things that got you there, right? And you know, some of our skill players, we feel really strong that they're going to be better than they were last year. And so I think you got to make sure you got plenty of ways to get the right football players the ball. And I think the things we can improve on and get better at, you know, is obviously be a better red zone offense. I think there was times last year, you know, and I'm not just talking about the Nevada game where we didn't have a kicking game, but just in general execution in the red zone and touchdowns over field goals, you know, and do a great job with that. So I think, you know, Jake has so much more experience as far as taking care of the ball this year, and you know, how to get our offense clicking and just getting a rhythm. And that's one of the things I think that Jake has brought and shown this spring and even this fall camp is understanding what it feels like to just get a rhythm before you need to hit the home run every time. So just being a patient, you know, signal call out there is something that Jake's really got us to the next level on. And I think a lot of our scrimmages from spring and fall camp have shown that our ability to stay on the field and do a good job.
Is there anything specific from Jake that you want to see him improve on year 1 to year 2 as the starter?
Just his command during the game and stay on track with the game plan. You know, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Jake to get the big plays and things like that. And just let it come to him. Our offense is designed to be quarterback friendly, and let the big plays come to him. And there'll be available shots for Jake to take. And what we don't want is, you know, him to try to manufacture big plays when they don't need to be made yet. So just being efficient and, you know, ready to strike when the opportunities hit.
Who is not entrenched as a starter that you expect big things from this season?
You know, I think a name that comes to mind is, you know, Jordan Mims. You know, Jordan isn't the starter. Obviously, you know, 20's our starter. But Jordan's not an inexperienced player. He's a guy that, you know, all the fans in Bulldog Stadium have been here in the past. They've seen him make big plays, and both in 17 and 18. And, you know, he's battled a lot of injuries, but I think Jordan's going to be a big part of the offense this year. I know he is. And, you know, you can't keep number 20 out there for 85 plays a game, and you still need
then just the last one from me. Do you know, is your offensive line shored up yet? Do you know if Matt Smith is going to start at center? Is Beulah Schmidt going to start at center? What's the offensive line going to look like?
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of rotation there. There's going to be some guys moving around still, probably even on game day. So we don't have it completely set yet. There's still, 3 full practices left here. We got 2 lineup juggles that we have to work through on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we should have our decision made by Thursday night.
And speaking of that line, Dante Adkins is not listed on the 2 deep. Is he going to be available for you?
He is. That actually, he should be in there now. So he came back the last 2 practices, did a really nice job. So we were a little bit worried about. Guys, both 2/3, so it is still open.
Any other questions for Coach Grubb? No? All right, thanks, Coach.
All right.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right, we'll bring in Coach Inge shortly.
These are just sitting here.
Yeah, these are just 2. Good morning. Good, how are you? Anybody want to get us started with Coach Inge? Paul, I'm going to lean on you again.
How you doing? How we doing, baby? Doing all right? Hey, Coach. What's going on? Game week here in the Valley.
Well, you seem like you're a little bit excited about that. So where does that excitement come from? What have you seen during this fall camp that has you fired up?
Probably one of the best blessings that you can receive having been here in our program is watching individuals have a chance to grow and develop, come together, form great relationships, but probably even more endure adversities that we've all had to overcome in this last year and a half. So to see things kind of be on course for being this new normal and game day, if you don't have any energy now, you're in the wrong business.
Can you help us understand the difference in depth between the end of last year and what you have right now going into game 1?
We try to forget about some of the things from last year from a depth standpoint. But one of the things that's very critical in our program, and this is where we've been charged from Coach DeBoer, is just to make sure that we understand we're a developmental program. So having had a chance to go through, in a sense, kind of what we call a 3-phase cycle, where you had spring ball, summer conditioning, and fall camp, it gives you the ability to be able to continue to develop your players. So it's great with recruiting, having a recruiting class in here, but also it's very good knowing that our players are learning and developing and coming along.
And is there something we didn't see from the defense last year that you think we are going to see this year?
As we go into year 2, it's truly going So hopefully we're going to be able to see a group that is better developed, as we've seen from being able to get the keys from one of the best strength and conditioning guys in college football, being Ryan McKeefery. We're going to look like a different football team. But I think from us as coaches being able to command the leadership from each individual position, but also the skill development that's happened during this time, we've been pleased with us thus far as well. So we're just excited to be able to get on the football field and have our guys just to really go do what they've been trained and coached to do.
Can you speak to what Tyson Maeva has brought to this defense? You know, he's on a couple watch lists heading in. He's named a team captain. But what have you seen day to day that he brings to the defense?
Tyson Maeva, he is the Energizer Bunny. It's very important to him, and probably the one thing that he brings is immediate leadership and instant accountability. And a lot of that is just due to the preparation that he brings to the table. When you look at night, he's in the film room studying, or he's sending a text message on something. Hey, coach, I saw this. Can we try this, or is this what we would do? So that lets you know that from a preparation standpoint, that is all important to him. So what we're just seeing from him is exactly what we've expected and what we've wanted during the recruiting process. So he's been an instant hit from a leadership standpoint on our football team.
Coach, the Husky is something that was introduced here last year, and nobody really knew what it was. For the fans that you'll actually have in Bulldogs Stadium this weekend, what can they expect to see it in person versus on TV, and what improvements have you made from last year to this year?
Yeah, the Husky is our hybrid outside linebacker position. In most defenses, it's called a nickel. The one thing where we've been able to be specific in our defense is that every position on the football field has a specific name. So our Husky position is our overhang player to the field, and it's one of the more athletic positions in our defense. And what we typically say is as that position goes, so does our defense. So we're looking forward for some great things from our Husky position this year.
You already touched on Tyson Maeva. The other defensive captain is David Perales. Can you just speak to him as a person, his character, and what he brings to the defense that makes him worthy of being a captain?
David Perales, if you had something to describe him, he would be a man of great action. That is one thing that is critical to him from a performance standpoint, but also on a day-to-day basis with the things that he does from a preparation standpoint. He is all about action. We could just remember some things that happened during the summer or even last year when we weren't practicing or even anticipating to play. Something he did just about every day was he was sending his workouts to his individual position. And it was something that we ended up kind of finding out indirectly just because you follow the kids on social networks. So he's got his workout on his Instagram, sending it to the other defensive linemen or other guys on the team. Hey, I got mine in. Who's with me? Who's following me? And that's exactly what you want from a leadership positional player, is someone who shows and knows that action is one of the most important parts of his job.
I don't believe that UConn has announced their starting quarterback, but are you planning on it being that, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, Zergaitis, Jack Zergaitis? He's probably going to be their guy, right? Is that who you're game planning for?
Yes, we would assume that, but on our end, discipline is 90% anticipation, so we have to just be great being able to make sure that we just have a plan for anyone that shows up at that respective position. We have a great respect for Coach Etzel and the staff and some of the things that they've done historically. It's kind of funny, we were just talking about half of my coaching career for about 10 to 12 years. I've been back and forth or playing him ever since our days at Cincinnati or Indiana and even at Buffalo. So we have a high regard for some of the things that they do offensively and structurally.
Good morning, Coach Inge. Now that fall camp has concluded, which area of the defense did you see make the biggest strides during that period of time, and why?
It's kind of a two-phase scenario, because the biggest thing we wanted to do in the very beginning was to make sure that the leadership was like it needed to be. So we had to put some players and some individuals through what we would call like Navy SEAL training to where it was going to be hard. And sometimes you were going to be given information or given things that you didn't deserve, but we wanted to see how you could take it. And some of those individuals passed, and some of those individuals still had to deal with some higher education, and that's where we come in as coaches. But if you looked overall, we've been very pleased with us up front in our defensive line position, seeing the growth and the development that they've had from last year to right now. And some of it is also some of the personnel that we've been able to bring in as well.
And I noticed 3 freshmen on the 2 deep, Zeke Branham, Amari Payton, Cale Sanders. What did they show you in fall camp to earn that spot on the 2 deep?
They showed us that it's important to them. They have courage under fire, and they want to be the guy. And most importantly, one of the things that you want to look for when you have young players, sometimes you kind of have to reel them in a little bit and kind of take the guard off. The one thing about all three of those players is we'd rather say whoa than sick 'em. It is awesome to see how those guys are assertive and bringing everything to the table from a preparation standpoint to where we would like to say that they've been pushed ahead of where they really are as freshmen. And we all know and understand it's going to have to be some things that we got to do in order to get them where they need to be, bringing them along. But with respect to what they've shown us in camp, we've been pleased with those three guys thus far.
One last question for Coach Inge.
Coach, you've got Leonard Payne listed as a starter at tackle. What kind of rotation do you expect to see with some of your reserves there as well?
The one thing that we hope to be able to do is, as you build depth in your program, the way you build it is by seeing them perform when the bullets are flying. So one thing that we've talked about as a staff is to make sure that everyone in every position, you have a consistent rotation. And in our defensive line, that's one of the more deeper positions on the team. So we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to play. I know Coach Schmidt has been doing a great job of kind of developing that philosophy. If I don't beat you there, I'll meet you there. So with all of them, they know that they can play as hard as possible. And if you need to come out, there's going to be another guy coming in that's going to play even harder. And when you're ready to go back in, you'll be able to go back in. And that's what you want to be able to do, because when you look at the championship teams, they have enough depth to where the players are going to be able to play. And that's one of the benefits that we hope to be able to reap as we move forward during the season.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Go Dogs.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Hey, you know, you were with one of my players in Tokyo,
Which one?
Justin Sergis.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
From Iowa?
I'm coaching in Northern Iowa and a recruiter from Minnesota.
He is fantastic. What a personality he has. He's got a 13-month-old kid, too.
No, radio doesn't get you
Oh, that's awesome.
questions.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
Morning.
Hey, Coach.
How you guys doing? It's I figured it would be good to hear from the coordinators every week and hear what kind of they have to say, the details, instead of being a broad spectrum from myself. But we're excited about finally getting a chance to play. And we need to play. We just need to see where we're at. We certainly have a better feel of where we're at compared to last year. But just like every season, that first game after 4.5 weeks of practice, it's time to play. And I think you'll still have the improvements from week 1 to week 2, that being a big jump like you normally have. But I know we're much further along, and you can hear from the coaches the areas that we're feeling good about. And we've got a lot of respect for a UConn team. Just knowing that Coach Edsel, has been a guy that's invested a lot in that program, and just a great coach overall. So. We got to be ready for anything and everything. Having 2 years off, I'm sure they're going to be over the top hungry to come in here and make a statement and do some things, and I'm sure have some surprises and wrinkles that they've been preparing for over the last couple of years and thinking about that, haven't showed up on film from 2 years ago in 2019. So have a little familiarity with them. We played them when I was at Indiana in 19, and so. Have a little bit of familiarity with them there. That was early in the season, so a lot happened even after that. But here we are, and I'm excited. I know the guys are excited. We've had a great camp, and we're ready to go. Any questions?
You said you're not sure where you're at, but you have a little better idea?
Yeah.
So how do you gauge that on Saturday? Do you have some benchmarks that you're looking for? How would you evaluate success on Saturday?
I mean, I know where we're at. I think it's just you got to play a game. I think that's really what, you got to play a game because, you script plays and you try to put your team in situations, but it's about the flow, and having a quarterback like Jake who can manage the flow and understand the situations and how to move the chains. And it's those type of things that you practice in scrimmages and you rehearse and you get prepared for red zone and all that. But the flow of the game and those type of things, that's where you just got to play for it for you to really see, how you're going to handle it. So I think all the things that you can practice, we have getting ready for Saturday.
So are there some specific things you're looking for that are going to tell you, hey, we're on the right track, or we need to go back to the drawing board?
We've emphasized starting fast. I would like to think that, the guys would tell you the same thing, that every single day in practice, coming out of the blocks. Now, it always depends on the execution. Obviously, your opponent has something to say about that too. If they're showing you something that you weren't ready for, or something that you didn't see on film, that might slow you down a little bit. But I hope we start fast. I think that just like any team would say, you start fast, you get some energy. We can get Bulldog Stadium rocking early. That would be a huge deal for us. And just like if you're on the other side, you're trying to weather the storm, right, on what can happen in the first quarter and just get through that. So to me, just overall, generally, I want to see it play physical. The turnover, it's all the things that are important to win in a football game.
The last thing for me, kind of two-part. What's the biggest challenge your team faced this fall, and what are you most encouraged by from what you've seen?
I think after last year, the challenges seem minimal. You have a whole different perspective. And so, honestly, I mean, it never goes perfect. Maybe the biggest challenge is that we had 3 weeks of camp, which is a great thing, but it becomes a long camp. What I mean by that is today's our first day of school. And because we play a week 0 game and we started practice earlier in July than we normally would, it's been a long camp. And so I think in some of the guys' minds, like, is this game ever going to come? But I think that's all a positive, because we have had more time with our guys, and which leads to more banked reps that we've had, and more time to really sit in the film room together and talk through the things and get to know our guys. The time we missed last year, just sitting around before a meeting, we've had a chance to do this year. Last year our entire camp was held. I mean, we were meeting our guys for the first time, and they were already in school. And this year, there's 3 weeks of a chance to get to know them, and it probably really is about, it comes into play with the new guys. I think about last year, guys like Tyler Mello, Magdalena, Justin Houston, the list goes on and on, Logan Fife, Malik Sherrod, all those guys were coming in, and they had no summer, they had no fall camp, and all of a sudden here we are trying to get ready for a game. That's just a couple. I know there's many others, Mose Vavo. And so, that this year we've had a chance in the summer to get to know them. They had a chance to get to know their teammates, and then we hit the ground running with fall camp. So it's been awesome. It's really what I envisioned, what I hoped for. When I took the job in 2019, you're kind of waiting for fall camp, and, like Coach Inge said, the 3 phases that you go through with spring, summer, and fall camp. We finally got a chance to do that.
Coach, kind of touching off the challenges from last season, does it feel like a similar challenge preparing for a team that hasn't played in, 2 years?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, we got to be ready for everything. And next week will be, different when we play Oregon. We'll be, there's some things, with new coordinators and so forth that we'll have to prepare for. But, I think that's where if you have experienced guys and your offensive and defensive systems are built the right way, the wrinkles that you get shown, you go back to the basics. Hey, if we got this look, this is, our checks, or this is how we play it. And so I think we've had a chance to really go through that and, show the guys the looks that are specifically challenges to whatever the scheme is on either side of the ball. So, again, we just need to play and put all that to the challenge, and we're just really fired up.
Last question for me. We didn't really get the chance to see it from you last year with a conference-only slate, but is the hope in a game like this to get the starters out early and see what some of the young guys can bring?
The hope is to win. Honestly, there's not a lot of conversation that goes along with that. It, and we're on the same page as far as guys that in the season you want to try to redshirt, and especially with the 4 games that guys are allowed, that you kind of like, we got some guys on defense I can think in particular that we could use on special teams for 4 games, save their red shirt, and have another guy come in for 4 more games. And so, the quarterback position is another one, being careful that we don't burn games. I mean, Jake's still got another year left after this. So, you got to be really careful with some of those things. And so we do talk about that. But I think in general, it's find a way to win. You know, we need to win by 1 point. You know, find a way to get a W, and that's the mindset.
Coach, it sounds silly to ask this because Bulldog Stadium seats 40,000. You play in front of tens of thousands all the time, but not playing in front of fans last year. Do you have to re-educate the team on what it's like to have the crowd noise and maybe have some silent counts at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, and I think especially on defense, hand signals and things like that you go through when it's loud on third down, and we have emphasized that more so than probably a normal year. Going back to even the first scrimmage, I pointed out to the defense, it's all under the umbrella of communication, right, and the energy that goes along with it. And so the communication has to be great. And we've pointed out a couple times, you know, when the signals aren't there, guys are yelling out the call, you know, maybe of the coverage adjustment that needs to be made, but we need to have the signals. And so, yes, that's certainly been something. And I think just the distractions in general that go along with the excitement. The other night I pointed out at our kickoff dinner that we have guys in this program that are going into their third year here that have never played a game where their parents got a chance to see them. They redshirted, they sat out or they had a COVID year where fans couldn't come to the game, and so you have a couple of those guys. I mean, Jake Hayner, David Perales, Tyson. Those three guys are three captains that have never played in front of the Red Wave here at a home game. You know, that's our three captains, 3 of the 4. Ronnie obviously has. So there's a lot of those things, and I can tell you there are distractions that I have had out there intentionally since the first day, and we've talked about them to where, you know, I try to get their concentration off and seeing who the guys are and pointing it out, whether they can refocus and make the next play and get locked in. So that certainly is a piece that, you know, the guys' excitement, you know, is something to just kind of hone it in and get re-locked in and refocused. It's something we've talked about.
You've got an 11 a.m. kickoff, and it's going to be hot. It's going to be about 104, 105 degrees. How do you balance the two? Because it's a unique situation in both. Now, granted, you guys practice all the time in, you know, those types of temperatures, but it's different on a game day. So hydration obviously becomes important. What do you say to the team to get ready for both of those? Yeah,
I think, you know, we finish practice. We're a morning practice team, so we finish you know, late morning, sometimes as late as 11:45. We had a practice last week where we bumped it back a little bit, finished about 12:45, 1 o'clock. It was warm. We were on the grass, and that's where the turf is a bigger difference. I mean, the heat on the turf can be 20, 30 degrees more than what it is in the air with the air temperature. So I think in general, because of the summer workouts, and the heats that's there, and then what we do in the fall, and us emphasizing hydration and having things in place that we do daily makes it more natural. There shouldn't be anything that we're doing on game day that is so far above and beyond, something that we've been doing anyway. And so we know who the guys are that might cramp up, that typically do it almost every day. It wouldn't matter if it was 85 or, 105. We know who those guys are, and we all week long will have, a plan in place, just like really every other week, but really emphasizing it here with the forecast, obviously, what it's going to be.
Coach, the first year of Bulldog football was 1921. It's 2021. It's been 100 years. What does it mean to you to be the head coach of this team going into the centennial year?
Yeah, that's something we've talked about, and we really relate it to legacy and what's your legacy going to be and where are you going to fit in, and all these great teams that have gone through this Bulldog football program. And so that's something we will talk about again tomorrow morning in our team meeting right before we go to practice. It's something we will talk about Friday night, just because that's the perspective. And I'm huge on tradition, especially when you got a program like this that has such great history and all the greats that have gone through here. So we have talked about that a lot, the alumni being welcome, and every time that we have some type of function I really talked to the team about embracing that, and that's going to be them someday. And how we're in a place right now because of the people that came before us, and how we want to make it better for those that come after us. And so that legacy piece in 100 years of football here is a special deal.
Hey, Coach, obviously last year with dealing with the COVID, the fans weren't able to come here. Have you sensed around the community, and even when the students go on campus, or if you've been on campus, that everybody's just ready for Saturday to come?
Yeah, I have. I hope they follow through with it. That's the biggest hope. Everywhere you go, it's fans in the stands. And it's the question we get asked every time we talk, is how's it going to be? How excited are you? And we're over the top excited. And, we want this to, I know, just everyone from administration to everyone who helps put on the game day, I know is doing everything we can to make this an awesome comeback, to the stadium, and having it be a full day event that's exciting, not just the football game, but what happens before, what happens after, the tailgating and all those things. And it's always been good, but we're even trying to ramp up what that event looks like, across the board. And anything that can bring energy, we're all for it. So I know our team and some of the things as far as even our entrance to the stadium, and we've changed it up a little bit just to make sure you're in your seats when kickoff happens.
Good afternoon, Coach. I know Grubb mentioned Atkins was missing some time this fall camp, and that's why he's not listed on the 2 deep. I was just curious, are there any other players who have missed time in fall camp that aren't listed on the 2 deep that you see making a contribution this season?
I think we're pretty locked in there. I think it's pretty up to date. So, but Dante was, I know, end of last week is when we kind of put it out, and then he has practiced since then. So, and done well. So I don't think there's anyone else.
Maury Edwards, do you know if when he will be back and if he'll make an impact?
Yeah, he'll be back. He'll be back. And again, we're pretty deep at that position. So just because he's not on the 2 deep doesn't mean he's not playing. There's other guys too that will make an impact that aren't on the 2 deep as well. So, he definitely, Emo's a guy that's, again, missed some days in camp, but we fully expect him to be back, ready to go this week.
And on the topic of health, I just wanted to ask an update on the vaccination status of the team. How vaccinated are you guys? Do you guys expect to be good for Saturday? And will you guys have any issues? Do you foresee any issues this season with that topic?
Well, I think just with, as we all know, this is a crazy, you never know what's next type of deal. But I can tell you from our team, there are still some guys that, fully vaccinated is a word that means you've gone through the whole process, and 2 weeks after your second shot, you're finally fully vaccinated. And I can tell you we're really close to being 100% here in the next couple weeks.
And I know it was touched upon, UConn and Oregon back-to-back, 2 different opponents. UConn hasn't played since 2019. Oregon's a top 15 team in the nation.
Right.
So how do you compare those 2 teams and have to prepare for each of them back-to-back? And does your game plan on Saturday reflect how you prepare for Oregon in terms of you not wanting to use your starters a full 4 quarters because you expect to use them at Autzen Stadium on the 4th?
I think that we literally take one game at a time. We don't get ahead of ourselves. It doesn't mean that you're not in the summer preparing, and I think you'd find this on every staff. They're putting, just like we did, a game plan, kind of a partial one for UConn, and you're working on breaking down film for Oregon, and you're working, through the first 3 to 4 games, especially if there's some consistency with the coordinators, and you're trying to do as much research as you can. So us knowing that we didn't have a game we were going to get film on for Oregon this summer, we did work on some of that. But honestly, everything focused this week is on finding a way to win this game. And then you kind of play it out as the game goes on to see how it unfolds and go from there and make those decisions I think that you're referring to.
Coach, it would appear you've gone through fall camp without any significant injuries. Do you credit that to fewer contact days, your off-season strength and conditioning, or what deserves credit for that?
I'm sure that the less contact days is a piece of that. And I think a lot of it is the strength and conditioning, like you said. We are a different looking football team than we were a year ago. A guy like Jalen Cropper is, 20 pounds above what he was a year ago. There's just guys that are bigger, moving faster. We refer to it as they have different engines underneath of them, different motors, more horsepower, whatever, all those words. But I think a big piece of it is Coach McKeefery, our sports medicine staff, our nutrition. They all have worked extremely well together in having a plan in place, and that plan was something we executed a year ago. I mean, extremely emphasized it because we just knew that we were getting these guys, I don't want to say off the street, but we had not had any time to work with them. And I felt like we got through fall camp and got through a lot of what we did by doing a good job of recovery after practice. It might be ice baths. It might be, doing different things with soft tissue. Just all of those things. I think we did a great job being diligent. Getting the guys ready before practice with different activation of muscle, pieces. And so I just think that we've had a lot of details that we've executed, and the guys have really bought into that, and that's helped us get through camp. I mean, there's always football, right? It's a violent sport. There's always going to be freak injuries. Fortunately, we haven't really had any of those this camp.
And there's been a lot of excitement about your freshman class. You've got the situation where you have all the seniors from last year back for next year,
Yep.
making it difficult. You have them that didn't get a full senior season in high school. How would you just assess where they're kind of at as a class compared to where a class might normally be, and how they've handled an unusual situation?
Yeah, last year's class, I read some of the names, just because I've thought about it a lot and how hard it was for those guys to come in, and really the development didn't happen, in last fall. So this offseason has been huge for those guys. I think looking to this year's class, you've heard the name Trey Watson thrown out there. I think Braylon Nelson's a guy that is at the offensive line position, along with Roland Fullwood, that are going to be guys that just we keep developing and bringing along this year. And as they learn, they could make an impact for us. On defense, I mean, CJ or Kale Sanders and Zeke Branham. Those are two guys that I know were talked about earlier too, that are just doing a phenomenal job. So we're excited because everyone does have this extra year. There are other guys that we can see who are going to be major impact players for us, but they're not getting as many reps because we still have super seniors in our program at their spot. So, we're excited about who we have here and who's come into the program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Coach DeBoer?
All right. Thank you. Go Dogs.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
All right, Taylor has everybody's credentials. I think everybody here has season credentials, so see Taylor, if you didn't get a media badge, he also has the rest of those and game notes.
Is there a particular player for Wednesday that you're thinking about?